Barrett Sallee covers college football for CBS Sports, is on CBS Sports HQ, and a host for Sirius XM college sports channels. And he joins us now here on the Williams Tractor Hotline on Ruscin Zach. Barrett, hope you're doing well. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, guys. How are y'all?
We're doing good. Appreciate the time today. So the story today in college football has been this Florida State Mike Norvell situation. Norvell has issued a statement clarifying it, and the team has met. It feels like this is over and they've moved on. What have you observed from this whole situation over the last day or so?
Yeah, I mean, it does feel like they've moved on. Obviously, it was not ideal what happened, but if you look at the message that was sent out, and Florida State even sent a transcript of the text message addressed to every single player. It was the same message, but it was addressed to each individual player based on who he was texting. So, I understand why, Marvin would say that this didn't happen, because in the interview with The Athletic, it sort of made it seem like there was a one-on-one meeting with every single player. But I mean, look, you guys talk for a living all day and all night. So do I. And a lot of times, what we think and what we mean is not exactly what we say. So Mike Norvell saying he's had conversations with everybody, everybody, telling them to read that he's proud of them and they can reach out. I mean, that is sort of what he said in that transcript. So to me, it seemed like it was a misunderstanding, and that Marvin probably spoke a little too soon and should have addressed it with Norvell before putting it on Twitter, because if he did, I think it would have made what turned out to be a huge situation really a non-issue.
Among the other news items today, Arkansas State comes up with a couple of COVID-19 positive tests. Iowa State comes up with some positive tests. I know that it's shocking now, and we're all sort of like, oh my gosh, they're positive COVID-19 tests. But I think as players and teams report, I think we're going to see more of this, where teams are basically saying, hey, we've got guys that are positive.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the point. I mean, when you have mandatory testing, when players arrive back on campus, you're going to have positives. And, honestly, having asymptomatic positives, yes, well, it does put other people at risk, obviously. I think it maybe this thing is more prevalent than it has been, and thus, less deadly and less dangerous. So, you're expecting this. It's the same concept that we've had, state by state over the last 3 months. If we have these tests and, dumped in bulk by these state health departments, well, yeah, of course the numbers are going to go up. More people. That's how it works. So, yeah, we better get used to it. I think what newsworthy now is that, these teams and these players, go into the protocols that were recently established. And so now we get to figure out and see how those work and what the process is moving forward beyond that. And I think, we should get used to this. It's going to happen at every single school. And, I think, honestly, it's part of the plan, and we all should have known that before this whole thing started.
We're talking with Barrett Sallee from CBS Sports here on Ruscin and Zach. What I'm curious is about Barrett with that situation is, when we get to the season, and I mean, we all know that college football is notorious for saying, kind of slow playing an injury, and then all of a sudden you look up and a guy's not on the field on Saturday. Well, what happened? Well, he's had a knee thing already. I wonder, will this be handled differently, or will, if a star player or two get test positive during the season, if we'll have to wait until Saturday to find out, they didn't practice all week because they've been sick?
I think we'll have to have some sort of communication, between schools and within schools, because, you look at what happened now. Alabama had 5 players tested. Well, immediately those players go into quarantine and contact tracing begins. Well, if you have a football player test positive on a Tuesday of game week, Well, then contact tracing means everybody in the football department, and probably everybody who he played on Saturday, So I think there has to be some sort of communication, more openness, and willingness to have personal medical records put out there. Otherwise, you can't really control this the way that you're supposed to control it. I mean, the idea is, that we're supposed to have knowledge of who has it and who they've been in contact with. And in the regular season, these players are going to be in contact with a lot of people, not just inside their own football programs as well. So, I think you're going to have to, I don't know how you do that, get around HIPAA laws like that. But maybe you sign a waiver, just like you do if you're going into to a season where, your personal injuries, torn ACLs, pulled muscles, whatever can be released. Maybe you do it that way. I don't know.
It's been a wild 24-hour news cycle. There's been all sorts of on the field or soon to be on the field issues. But one of the things I want to ask you about is Johnny Majors passed away at the age of 85 yesterday. It's my position. He's probably one of the most influential coaches of the back half of the 20th century. Tell me a little bit about Johnny Majors, his influence at Tennessee and Pittsburgh and Iowa State and all the places where he was.
Yeah, I mean, I think at Pitt, he sort of brought Pitt into a new era. He not only obviously recruited Tony Dorsett, but I think he made Pitt recognizable for local kids for decades. They were independent. That changed obviously, but beyond Tony Dorsett, he probably has a lot to do with why Dan Marino played at Pitt, even though he was already gone. And then at Tennessee, they were just sort of a middling program. And then with him, obviously 3 SEC championships, made Tennessee fans and players, sort of take hold of the whole VFL Vol for Life thing, and I'll give my all for Tennessee. All that stuff that the general program, he sort of reinvented for really the last 3 decades. Even though the last decade hasn't been great for Tennessee, the fact that it has been so down based on its previous standards. Those standards were set by Johnny Majors, and has had a lasting impact on Tennessee and Pitt, and really the college football world in general.
Barrett Sallee's our guest here on the Williams Tractor Hotline. Barrett Sallee with CBS Sports here on Ruscin and Zach. So this college football season is going to be interesting because some places had some spring practice, and you look at a situation like Arkansas where it is June 4th, and this group has never even been on a field running any kind of play at all, and probably won't until at the latest August. What is the quality of play going to take a while to warm up? What do you expect to see from college football on the field this year? I would imagine in some of these early big blockbuster games might have kind of a clumsy appearance at times.
No doubt. And a team like Arkansas is going to be hurt drastically by this because, like you said, they haven't practiced before and they have a new coach. And not only a new coach, a coach who hasn't been a head coach at the college level since the early 90s, and that was junior college. So, yeah, I mean, a team like Arkansas is going to be in big trouble. Even a team like LSU that is ultra talented, but none of these kids have played together. So many new faces, coaching changes, scheme changes, all that stuff. And it goes to something that I say every offseason. A lot of these magazines that we get every single offseason, they have a list of returning starters and who has the most returning starters. And, a lot of those magazines base predictions off of those. And in reality, some of those guys just aren't very good. If you have 16 returning starters, what if 11 of them aren't very good? It doesn't really matter all that much. But in this particular season, it will matter a lot because you have, a bunch of different, a different set of circumstances. And if you have, an entrenched offensive line or a quarterback that has 2 receivers who he knows well and is comfortable with, well, that's going to cut out, 2 weeks of camp. A lot of these coaches would like to have a rough draft of their depth chart by the end of spring practice. Now they have no idea what it's going to be, and they won't know until about 2 weeks into fall camp. So it really does, it's going to be sloppy play for sure. And a team like Arkansas is going to get really hurt by it. Probably going to be sloppier than most because of not only, where they were coming from, but the fact that you have a brand new head coach who hasn't done this in a long, long time.
As we get these dates and we see, and we'll eventually get a date on when practice starts. You're one of my favorite follows on Twitter because you hate everybody's team, but it just feels like it feels like college football fans are back and they're starting to, they're picking at the national guys, you and everybody else. I mean, you got into a Twitter thing the other day. I mean, you hate Georgia, right? I mean, you're there in Georgia. You absolutely hate the Dogs, right?
I hate Georgia, even though I was the only person in the world who picked them to go to the national championship game before the 2017 season. It's part of the job, man. Like that's what makes it fun. It's so much more enjoyable now after we've gone through all that we've gone through for the last 4 months to get back to normal. I hate you because you hate my team conversations. It feels like it's actual college football season again. So, apparently now I'm a Georgia hater, which. Whatever. That's what makes it fun. But honestly, when you get into conversations like that and people bring that at you or me or whoever, to me, it's just a sign of the week. It's a sign that you have no other option and no other argument. And you know what? We're just going to throw out bias and hope it sticks, even though it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, our favorite one is "you suck." we get that a lot. So yeah, we're with you.
Well, and see, and honestly, has that ever been debated?
No, not at all. No, we don't even protest.
No. It's a given. I mean,
that's a nod your head and smile.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Barrett Sallee's with us here on Ruscin and Zach. Okay, so short term at Arkansas, it's gonna be a rough go. But Pittman, Odom running the defense, Kendall Briles running the offense. As you look forward, if these three stay together 2-3 years down the road, what do you see with Arkansas? Do they turn this thing around and become a program that gets to bowl games a year in and year out again?
Yeah, they can. I think that's probably the short-term goal that Arkansas fans should have. I mean, when you sign up with Sam Pittman, you're signing up for a slow rebuild, and that's not to say he can't do it. I love Sam Pittman, but this is brand new. If you judge the way I think it's pretty clear that he wants to play old school in terms of the line of scrimmage, but he does want, and Kendall Briles obviously is a guy that can bring that, not just from a scheme standpoint, but from a recruiting. Yeah, it's going to take a little while. This year probably will be rough, but I think if they recruit Texas the way they want to, and Sam Pittman is a great recruiter, then yeah, I think in a couple years you're looking at 6-6 kind of consistently, and then if you catch a good year, you go 8-4, and then beyond that, who knows? Who knows what the landscape of the SEC will look like once that is established. But yeah, 3 years, going to bowl games consistently. Yeah, I think that should be the expectation. I know it kind of sucks for fans and players who are upperclassmen there at Arkansas right now, but it is when you go through what you've gone through the last few years at Arkansas. It's going to take a little while.
It feels like this program just needs stability at all positions, head coach, offense coordinator, and especially at quarterback, where Felipe Franks rolls in for his first year. He's got 2 years of eligibility if he wants them. What does Felipe Franks bring to a Kendall Briles offense year one?
He's got a big arm. We all know about his arm. I mean, go back and look at that last-second Hail Mary against Tennessee a few years back. In the swamp. I mean, he slung that thing on the run like 65, 70 yards to the back of the end zone. So he's got the arm strength. He doesn't have a ton of touch. I think that's a problem in Kendall Briles' offense, because they do utilize a lot of the short passes, quick passes to sort of set everything up. So there's that problem. He does, I think, bring more of the running element than maybe he showed at Florida. He's a big kid. I mean, I remember standing next to Felipe Franks 3 years ago thinking, wow, this dude looks like a video game. Like, he's a large dude. So you can do some things with him, and I expect Kendall will. So yeah, he's got theoretically 2 years remaining. I would imagine he uses those, both of them, because I don't think 1 year is going to garner any looks from the NFL. I think he's an adequate quarterback. He has the skills to be really good, but I think he maybe gets a little too. He thinks that he can fit balls in where he really can't, and that's a lot of quarterbacks. A lot of them get that dose of reality as a freshman, they get over it, and they move on. I don't know if Felipe ever really got that. I don't know if he ever kind of got that, reality that he's not, any better or worse than any of these kids. Whereas, in high school, you're better than everybody.
Yeah. Barrett Sallee with us, CBS Sports, covering college football. A lot ramping up as the SEC gets back to voluntary workouts next week, and more as the summer rolls on. Barrett, we appreciate the time today. Thank you so much.
All right, y'all. Thanks for having me.
All right. Barrett and all our guests join us here on the Williams Tractor Hotline. We hope you were able to get a lot out of that. We fought some phone problems there.